Hey guys, welcome back. This is Ted with Forward the Line. Thank you all who took a look at the other videos that we have up. And if you wouldn't mind, please like and follow and rumble rant down below if you like what I have to say, or if you want to yell at me and call me an idiot, whatever floats your boat. Check us out over on X at Forward the Line and our website forwardtheline.co, where we currently have some shirts and some goodies, and there's more to come. And lastly, please share if you like what you see, like what you hear. Tell your friends, tell your family. We would like to expand our reach and try and talk to more people to educate and to motivate. Let's go ahead and jump right on in. So, from Reuters, Trump signs executive order seeking to expand IVF access. Ooh. U.S. President Donald Trump signed an executive order on Tuesday directing the government to expand access to in vitro fertilization and reduce the cost of the popular fertility treatment. The order, which directs Trump's domestic policy chief to produce a list of policy recommendations that protect IVF access and cut costs for individuals within 90 days, did not address how the costs would be covered. Most states currently do not require insurers, to cover IVF, which involves combining eggs and sperm and blah 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 blah. Quote, it is the policy of my administration to ensure reliable access to IVF treatment, including by easing unnecessary statutory or regulatory burdens to make the IVF treatment drastically more affordable, end quote, the order did state. Also, costs can range between 12,000 and 25,000 per cycle, and there are multiple cycles required in order to get pregnant. So, the reason why I wanted to do this story isn't so much about the regulation involved, which not a huge fan of. I don't like putting extra pressures on private industry. Um, but the reason why I somewhat support this, if they do decide to implement a regulation in order to drop costs, forcing insurers to cover more options around the IVF procedure, is the idea of promoting family, and this policy directly promotes family. And in this country, we have a massive shortcoming in the amount of people that not only have kids but even want to have kids. I don't know if you guys experience this or not, but when I was a kid, there was a lot in the TV shows I watched, the movies, that made it seem like having a kid was a burden, like your life would be over and you wouldn't be able to do anything for yourself, and your entire life would be devoted to that child. And though that might be true, it it's one of the greatest things that can happen to an individual. And I don't even have kids, and I know that. And I've seen it happen to my friends. I've seen it happen to other individuals that I know. That it completely changes a person, right? There's an issue with men that there's aggressive energy that kind of surrounds the psyche of a man, and not necessarily violent, but aggressive nonetheless. There's a lot of powerful hormones. There's a lot of energy created to build and to grow and to develop and protect, right? Well, the problem is when you don't have kids, and especially when you're not married, that aggressive energy usually ends up being utterly destructive to the individual. And I've personally experienced that. I'm sure many of you have. And the institution of marriage doesn't just provide contractual benefits, the taxes and that such, but it actually directs the energy of the man. The woman, I'm sure, receives certain benefits as well, stability and being protected and feeling loved and all that. But specifically speaking on men, as I am one, the it allows for a man to have it creates guardrails, right? So you have guardrails that are developed, and it can direct that aggressive energy to build and to be and for positive rather than a detriment to the individual. So one of the biggest things, to continue on, the fertility rate is consistently dropping, and that is a societal issue. right? And it needs to be so families are becoming less and less and less. The replacement rate is 2.1 children, and in 1950 there were families were having an average of 5, and then last year I believe it was 1.6. The birth rate was last year, which is just completely unacceptable. We're not even rebuilding the people that are retiring. We're not replacing. The ones that die. Excuse me. We're not replacing. And on top of that, we've got an entire generation of boomers that are going into already in retirement. So you're losing not only people from the workforce, but you're losing really an entire generations of individuals that can build and sustain. And that, not even to mention Social Security. I mean, shoot, what the hell is going to happen to that when we don't have enough people to support that institution? But because family needs to be promoted, right? It needs to be culturally relevant. It needs to be at the top of everybody's mind. When you graduate high school, your ideas, like it used to be, is, well, I should get married and start a family and build my career. It should be all encompassing, not just one. Oh, well, I don't want to start a family because I can't pursue my career. Why don't you do both? Why don't you do both? I mean, we all have the potential to achieve great things. So why not do two at once? I don't know. That's just my opinion. But the fact that the culture deems it to be a negative is it's utterly disgusting, and we need to change that. And you should support regulations to a certain extent, or even suggestions, executive orders that at the very least make it good to have a family. And in terms of IVF, and I'm kind of digressing a little bit here, but in terms of IVF, it's a technology that gives individuals or gives families the ability to actually experience that, which is a very positive thing. And there are people out there that have tried it naturally and can't do it. So yes, we should provide it to as many people that needs it and make it more affordable to begin with. I mean, I'm sure the pregnancy costs are already substantial as they are. So adding a $25,000 cycle on top of it just to be able to get pregnant to have a child, which we need, is just it should already be covered by insurance. If we cover delivery of a child, we should provide some sort of benefit, either through insurance or even through some sort of private organization somehow. And I'm kind of spitballing here, but we should be able to. The insurance companies should cover it, is what I'm trying to say. At the end of the day, the insurance companies should cover it, and I support this regulation, even though I don't support many others that I hope Trump continues to cut. So let's go ahead and move on. Our next story here from statnews.com. The GRAS loophole lets untested additives into Americans' food. Can RFK Jr. close it? Kennedy wants to tackle the exemption that allows food companies to put chemicals in food without review by the FDA. Many have tried before him. Let's see. A lot of Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s ideas about health are controversial. But when it comes to his pitch on increasing oversight of chemicals in the U.S. food supply, even the Food and Drug Administration agrees it needs to do a better job. That is absolutely true. And we'll cover it a little bit later, but 3,000 out of the 10,000 food additives that are used in foods have not even been reviewed, which is just complete insanity, especially after we just had a public news story where we banned red dye 5, I believe it was. And, that has been known to be terrible for you for decades. And we just now banned it. So 3,000 food additives that are not even reviewed is completely unacceptable. And I hope he does something about that. So the GRAS rule has paved the way for thousands of ingredients never reviewed by the FDA to become embedded in the foods Americans eat. Even as researchers raise concerns about their potential health consequences, additives have only increased in the U.S. food supply. Between 2001 and 2019, the portion of packaged foods containing additives grew from 49.6% to 59.5% in the course of, 2 decades? Oof. Quote, GRAS has been abused and it's ripe for reform, said Stephen Ostroff, former acting FDA commissioner and deputy commissioner for foods. Now, here's where I stand on this. Again, to repeat what I said earlier, I'm not a big fan of regulation, but these are already in effect. We already have the FDA, and even though the FDA should be reformed, it should be cut down in general. There are certain policies that are in effect already that are positive. This is a positive policy, and the idea is positive, but the action taken, the result where you're letting a lot of items just slip on through, unacceptable. Unacceptable because we have such a large problem in our diet. Not only is the obesity rate somewhere in the ballpark of 70 some odd percent of American adults are overweight, but then the food itself is poison. It's genuinely poison. One of my biggest complaints is seed oils. So with seed oils, you got like cottonseed, sunflower, cauliflower, peanut, sesame, and most people know them as vegetable oils. And you would think that because it's in everything, well, it would be okay. But I think still a lot of people don't realize that that is terrible for your mind. It's terrible for your body. It can cause inflammation and long-term problems because it's in everything. You can end up having a lot more issues later in life because you've ingested it over the years. The only reason why it's even still actively used is because it's cheap. And they use corn to make those oils in some cases as well. And then on top of that, we subsidize corn and we use that corn to make high fructose corn syrup, which is completely detrimental to your health. So please avoid drinking sodas if you can. But uh, it, the food that we eat is genuinely poison. Now, RFK has done some good things. He pitched the idea of having tallow be used in fast food, McDonald's and such for fries, because beef tallow is more likely to or less likely to cause some of the negative side effects that seed oils do. So hopefully he starts something with that and can move forward on that. But the FDA deauthorized the use of 23 phthalates in food in 2022. Okay. So it's not like the FDA is doing nothing, but they should be doing much, much more. And I'm hoping RFK gets in there and actually just, if the policy's already in place, then it needs to be enacted. It needs to be successfully enacted. We all need to eat better, right? We all need to eat better. And the fact that it's very hard to eat well is discouraging. So I ask you, if you are watching, to please make every attempt you can to put better food in your body, because what you put in is the adds to the longevity of you being here and supporting your family and being there for your grandkids, and taking care of yourself is honestly, to get slightly religious, it's what God commands, right, in the Bible. And I'm not huge on the idea of religion personally, but there has been long-term knowledge that dealing with your that protecting your body as a temple is necessary. So treat it as such, right? I want you to be here. I want you to be successful. So please do the best you can to do it. I know it can be expensive, but hopefully with RFK in there, we can get some changes to how the food industry operates, and maybe actually see some legitimate results. Along with free market, if you guys choose to eat better, the free market in conjunction with RFK, we may see some real results. So let's go ahead and move on here because I'm starting to ramble. From the AP News, Trump loyalist Kash Patel is confirmed as FBI director by the Senate despite deep Democratic doubts. Oof. Actually, no, that's a good thing. I shouldn't have. I shouldn't have said it like that. The Senate on Thursday narrowly voted to confirm Kash Patel as director of the FBI, moving to place him atop the nation's premier federal law enforcement agency, despite doubts from Democrats about his qualifications and concerns he will do Donald Trump's bidding and go after the Republican president's adversaries. Quote, I cannot imagine a worse choice, Senator Dick Durbin, Democrat, told colleagues before the 51-49 vote by the GOP-controlled Senate, Senator, what is that? Is that Senator? Susan Collins of Maine and Lisa Murkowski of Alaska were the lone Republican holdouts. Well, that's not surprising. Those two, I mean, Maine is at best a purple state. Um, and Alaska kind of the same. I mean, honestly, like that makes sense. It sucks. At least Mitch McConnell didn't vote against it because he's a turd sandwich, right? He's a turd sandwich. I mean, I can't believe he voted against some of the other nominees. I think he even voted against RFK, if I'm not mistaken. It just, if you're gonna, if you're gonna, if you're gonna do something like that, which directly flies in the face of Donald Trump, when he had a popular mandate from the entire country saying, "We want us, the people," saying we want his agenda. If you're gonna go against that, then be prepared to be primary. There's a lot of organizations out there that are prepared and ready. That if you voted against his nominees, then you would likely be primaried, and I think they're going to hold to their promise on that. A Trump loyalist who has fiercely criticized the agency, he will now lead. Patel will inherit an FBI gripped by turmoil as the Justice Department over the past month has forced out a group of senior bureau officials and made a highly unusual demand for the name of thousands of agents who participated in investigations related to the January 6, 2021 riot at the U.S. Capitol. Now, I like this. And of course, the Democrats are going to say this isn't good. You're putting their personal information out there. Okay, that's fine. Right. But it really does depend on what information they end up releasing. If, how much they're going to release to the public. But what justifies this for me, right, is we had 27, I believe, 26 or 27 individuals that were informants of the FBI. After years of hiding it, they let it out that, oh yeah, we had people there on that day, right? And they pretended in the media, and they gaslit everybody to think that, oh, there was nobody there. It's a conspiracy theory that there were agents in the crowd. And the thing is we know the FBI has done this before. I mean, the what Gretchen Whitmer kidnapping, where a bunch of the individuals in that plot were in fact FBI agents and informants, right? So we know they do this, and then it takes them years to admit that we had at least some maybe not agents, but informants there. And then, oh, it's no big deal. Oh, it's no big deal. Just, don't worry about it. It's fine. And then they'll turn around and say, well, when the Republicans say it is a big deal, then the Democrats turned around and said, oh, well, they weren't actually agents. You're lying about the FBI having people there. They were just informants. It's not a big deal. It's so frustrating because the FBI has constantly been not only politicized, but have been politicized in one particular direction since Donald Trump became president. And believe me, I wish the Democrats would get their shit together. I really do. Because, if there was a level of modesty that came out of the Clinton administration, even though I didn't like everything personally, I was also, I was really, really young at that time. So it's based off what I've read. At the very least, he was moderate, right? And to have the post-Obama Democrats fly so far to the left in this amount of time, then on top of that, using their power from within the government to radicalize the actual agencies of the government to be politicized against Republicans. And that's the thing that I hope Kash actually fixes. And the media is going to scream and yell about that and all that good stuff because that's what they do, because they're in cahoots with the FBI and the other agencies. Anyways, we know they receive money. The USAID kind of proved that we ended up giving media outlets money, right, out of our tax dollars. So we know they're all together. But the FBI made political movements that were so blatantly gross. So we know about the surveillance of Trump's campaign, right? We know the FBI was involved directly in surveilling his campaign, and then you had the Steele dossier, and you had the Mueller report that came out and ended up being utterly bullshit, right? And he and then the FBI was told to not only surveil on him. I'm sorry, I back up. So you had that issue, right, where we know they're wrong, and no one ever paid for it, and Ray was still in charge of it. And then you had the big deal that happened. What was that? 2022 or 2023, where they designated Catholics as I'm sure you saw this news story where they designated Catholics as terrorists, national terrorists. Now, what actually happened, as far as I know, is that the FBI classified a certain group of Catholics of Catholicism, called what is it? Radical Traditionalist Catholics (RTCs). That's actually what they did, but the reason why it was such a red flag to a lot of individuals, specifically Republicans and conservatives, but even for more libertarians, the reason why it was such an issue is, or one of the reasons, is that you are targeting a group of people that are from the foundation of this country, right? This country is a Christian nation. It is built in Judeo-Christian values. It's written in the or maybe not directly in the Constitution, but in a certain way, yeah. And the founding fathers talked about it all the time. And what was it? The Madison? Maybe no, it might not have been Madison. I'm not sure, but you can look it up. Basically, he said the Constitution only works for a moral and just people. And so when you're going after a primary religion that you classify the individuals as radical traditionalists, how much evidence do you have that they commit terror acts? Like, we have evidence of Muslims committing terrorist acts, and that doesn't mean all Muslims should be, pursued and all that stuff. Radical Muslims is different, of course. So you shouldn't persecute somebody just for their religion across the board. But you move into the, okay, well, there's the Nazism, okay, that's pretty obvious. It relates back to, Hitler, and there were awful things done to the Jews during during Hitler's reign. So we know that Nazism is not a good thing. So to monitor them, I mean, I don't like it because freedom of speech, but I get it. But then to classify Catholics as a domestic terrorist organization, even if they're not, even if they're a small subset, small sect of the Catholic faith, it spits in the face. It spits in the face of the American people, and I think that's why Republicans and conservatives were so upset about it. So after I say all that, the FBI, you have the politicization, you have the lack of competency involved in the FBI. That's a huge thing. And Kash, one of the arguments that I heard was, well, Kash doesn't have any experience dealing with large organizations in the government. And obviously, I personally don't want that. Why would I want somebody that that knows how to run the deep state to run the deep state, right? I would rather somebody fresh in there that has a new set of ideas, has a plan, has an agenda that kind of fits with the idea of keeping them strong and but also fair, right? And that seems to be what Kash wants to do. So I'm excited about that. But see, and the level of incompetence that was there, you had Christopher Wray that was flying directly in the face, specifically Donald Trump, while he was president and afterwards. But and then the biggest thing. Oh God, I don't know why I didn't mention this earlier. The Hillary Clinton email scandal, right? The FBI director at the time, I don't know, I don't think it was Wray. Was it Comey? I think it was Comey. Came out and basically admitted to the entire country that, oh yeah, well, she did commit a crime. There is crime there, but we're not going to pursue it because we don't want to. Or I think maybe it was something along the lines of, it was political, to avoid political persecution. And then they turn around, the same people turn around and go after Trump, whether you like him or whether you don't. The fact that the FBI was engaging in that behavior is what needs to be stopped. Kash Patel promises to do that, so I hope that he actually does it, and that's why I'm excited for him to be in there. Right? And I hope you are too, honestly, because there needs to be a shakeup across the government. I'm sad that some people are losing their jobs. I really am, truly. And I know the good ones will bounce back. I know the good ones will get a job in the private industry. And real quick, just a personal story. I was fired in 2021 during COVID for not getting the COVID vaccine. I was told about 3 to 4 months ahead of time that I'd be let go unless I got the shot. Specifically, unless I got the jab, I would be fired. And I stood my ground and said no. And it was one of the scariest times in my life I've ever experienced, because I had a career. I had a fiance at the time, and I didn't, I was building a life again, brand new life, had a place, all that stuff. So I didn't even know how I was going to pay my bills. I had no idea what to do. And luckily I ended up bouncing back and ended up doing a little bit better than what I was. But before that happened, it was terrifying. So I completely understand what people are going through right now, and I wish you well, and I pray for you, and I hope it'll work out for you. I really do. But if there's any type of solace or consolation, that we this needs to happen. This needs to happen, because hopefully, if you're good, you keep your job. But all the garbage and rot and bloated government employees that do nothing all day, they need to go. And if we have to take a wrecking ball to it and then rebuild it, then that's what we need to do. Honestly, that's what we need to do. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up there, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and follow, like I said in the beginning, and also share if you would. I appreciate you, and I wish you well. And remember, stay strong and stay vigilant and forward the line.